Zack Snyder's Justice League was just officially released after like 4 years since the first one came out, but also if you think about it, the first trailer for Justice League came out in 2016, and when that trailer came out, Joss Whedon had no involvement in the movie whatsoever, meaning that was a trailer technically for Zack Snyder's Justice League, and that trailer came out 5 years before this movie came out, which is insane to me. But anyway, this new movie it's universally agreed upon to be much, much better than Joss Whedon's Justice League, and that is absolutely the case. It is a lot longer, and it is a little long. Like, I wouldn't be able to watch it in one sitting, but that's fine because it is broken up into these little parts that you can pause after every single part, and it still works as a cohesive story, like as a TV show. But really, it's much better than the original movie. It gives so much more development to the characters, a lot more screen time as well. The first movie cut out so much of what these characters ended up doing, specifically Cyborg and also the Flash, who had like really nothing to do in that last movie, and in the end it felt like Superman could have done everything by himself. In this movie, that is absolutely not the case. Every single character is either instrumental to the story or they were instrumental in the battle in the end at defeating Steppenwolf. So anyway, yeah, it's a much, much better movie, and now that this new movie gave us a much better look at the events of the Justice League movie, I wanted to go over all the characters from this movie, specifically mostly the Justice League members, and go over how they compare to their DCTV counterparts. So with that in mind, let's begin with Batman. So Batman in the DCEU is played by Ben Affleck, debuting in Batman vs. Superman, then he had a cameo in the end credits scene of Suicide Squad, and finally in Justice League. Now I should say, for the purposes of this video, when I say Justice League, I'm not referring to the 2017 version, because that movie is not canon in my opinion. I'm talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's just a bit of a mouthful, so I'll just call it Justice League, and also again, the 2017 version just doesn't exist. Anyway, this is a pretty great version of the character, like, half of the time. Like, in Batman vs. Superman, he was great in the fact that he was incredibly badass, the right tone in terms of darkness, and his costume was really cool, but he was a bit of a murder maniac, and that's just not what Batman is about at all. However, in Justice League, on the other hand, he's not a murderer, he doesn't kill anybody, but also he's a lot less badass. His costume just looks kind of stupid, honestly, with the goggles in the end, and even before that, there's a bit of a downgrade in his costume for some reason that I can't really explain between Batman vs. Superman and Justice League. So he's never really the perfect Batman, but he's a hell of a lot better than the Batman we get in the Arrowverse, because he at least exists. In the Arrowverse, Batman is basically just references, and yeah, I got a lot of views off these references in videos, and I really appreciate them, obviously, but he's not really a character. He is played by an actor, and that's Warren Christie, but Warren Christie only really plays the Hush, impersonating Bruce Wayne character, not Bruce Wayne himself, outside of just this picture, this cover. That's the only time Bruce Wayne as Warren Christie has ever appeared. So it's clear that the DCEU version is superior in basically every single way, as he is a much more fleshed out character. He has a better design, just based off of what we've seen. Even though his goggles do look pretty stupid, he's a lot more important, he's had a better storyline, and while he is not really all that comic accurate in Batman vs. Superman, I would say that after that he becomes a lot more comic accurate. So overall, the DCU wins. So next up is Superman, which is definitely more of a fair fight compared to Batman, as both versions of Superman are very, very good versions of the character. You have Henry Cavill for the DCU, who definitely looks a lot like Superman, and embodies the power of Superman, which is very well handled in all of the movies. His powers definitely look really cool with the movie-level budget. Tyler Hoechlin, on the other hand, I think, in my opinion, has a better costume, at least now he does, because of Superman and Lois. Beforehand, that was definitely not the case, but also, more importantly, he embodies the personality of Superman and Clark Kent specifically, I think way, way better than Henry Cavill has ever embodied him. That was always a complaint of that version of Superman, that he isn't, hopeful enough, he's too dark, which isn't really always the case, but for Tyler Hoechlin, I think the comparison is clear, where he just embodies the personality of Superman and what Superman represents a lot better, and also he's gotten a huge upgrade in terms of his powers and abilities and his significance in the universe and also as a main character, since he now has his own show in Superman and Lois. Beforehand, he was always like a sidekick to Supergirl, less powerful than her too, and that was just always so annoying. But now that he has his own show, I think that it's clear to me, at least, that Tyler Hoechlin is my favorite Superman, especially at least out of these two, so Arrowverse gets the point. So next up is The Flash. Now this was such an easy choice from the 2017 movie because Ezra Miller's Flash has no redeeming qualities in my opinion. I think that Ezra Miller, and I still think this, Ezra Miller was miscast. He doesn't portray a Barry Allen very well. He doesn't act like Barry Allen does at all. And I know this is a bit of a nitpick, but I'm so distracted by his hair color. It's like obsidian black, the darkest black you can possibly have in a hair color, which is like the exact opposite of Barry Allen's blonde hair, which, yeah, Grant Gustin doesn't have either, but at least it's brown, which can, like, you can get that off as, like, dirty blondish, so it's not, like, as distracting. Anyway, that's a bit of a nitpick. That's not really the real reason I don't think Ezra Miller was cast well. But anyway, that was from the 2017 movie. I still think he was miscast, but I did like him a lot more in Zack Snyder's Justice League. He had much better scenes with his father, which I think is instrumental to the character. He had much more badass scenes. He wasn't as much of a newbie like it was in the 2017 movie. He had a lot more experience, and he knew what he was doing a lot more. And his scenes with like the time travel, which was completely excluded from the original movie, it's really cool. Like I said earlier, he was like one of the characters who was also didn't really matter in the original movie, like especially in the final battle, but that is absolutely not the case here, where he was instrumental to the defeat of Steppenwolf, and it's clear that Superman could not have done that alone. Anyway, he was much better in this movie, but even still, like I said, he was incredibly miscast, and as such, I think that Grant Gustin is the superior Flash. First of all, his costume was much better. That wasn't always the case because his original costume isn't great and his season 5 costume kind of sucks. But both the season 4 and season 6 costumes are so much better than Ezra Miller's costumes. They just look so much more like the Flash. So in the end, yeah, I do think Grant Gustin's Barry Allen is better. He just, characterization-wise, he acts so much more like Barry Allen does. He also looks better. He looks more like the Flash. Now, he does have the advantage of having more storylines, but you'll see in actually the next character where having more storylines and having more screen time, which the Arrowverse will almost always have, doesn't always mean you automatically win. There are some characters who are better off appearing less. Anyway, for now, I do think that the Arrowverse Flash is a lot better, but I just wanted to point out the fact that Zack Snyder's Justice League did a much better job at just the character of the Flash than Justice League ever came close to. Next up is the Martian Manhunter. In the DCEU, he's played by Henry Lennox, and he doesn't really have all that big of a role. He had a side character role in Man of Steel, where we never saw him as Martian Manhunter. We didn't even know he was John Jones yet. And then he had like a bit of a cameo in Justice League. On the other hand, in the Arrowverse, he's played by David Harewood, and he has a very large role in Supergirl, appearing in I think every single episode, but also in the Elseworlds and Crisis on Infinite Earths crossovers. Now this is what I mean when I talk about the disadvantage of the screen time of the Arrowverse, because I think that the Arrowverse version of Martian Manhunter is made worse by the amount of screen time that he has. His design is really good, especially for like a CW show, especially for Supergirl. His design is good. In fact, I think that I like his design more than the Justice League version of, at least the design of Martian Manhunter. Also, he's obviously had a lot more character development, a lot more backstory given to us. He's had a lot more to do, but also, again, that comes at a disadvantage because it becomes so infuriating how little he turns into his Martian form. The reason for that is budgetary, but it's like they completely misuse the character, as he rarely ever turns into the Martian form. Because of that, I think that the screen time that he has comes at a huge disadvantage to the character, as if he only appeared like once in a while, always appearing in his Martian form, I think that he would have ended up being a much better character. Now, that being said, I'm not going to give the point to the DCEU. He only appeared in Man of Steel in his human form, and then in Justice League, his role was very limited. That being said, though, if we ever do get a sequel for Zack Snyder's Justice League, which at this point is something I actually really want to see, that was not the case after the 2017 movie. After that movie, I really couldn't care less about the DCEU at all, and it wasn't until Aquaman where I really started caring at least a little bit again. But now after this movie, I really, really want to see a sequel, and I'm not exaggerating there. Like, it's something I really want to see. If we ever do see it, though, I think that Henry Lennox's Martian Manhunter has the capability of surpassing David Harewood's as the best live-action Martian Manhunter, just because I think that Martian Manhunter is a character who requires a higher budget, or at least if it doesn't have a higher budget, then limited appearances. Because if he just turns into his human form all the time, he just becomes so uninteresting. I think that's just the case for me. Like, that's my opinion because of the Justice League Unlimited TV show, where I grew up on that and I watched it. Martian Manhunter is a great character there, and he almost never switches from his Martian form. But if he ever does, it's like in a battle where he turns into a different creature, or where he's trying to infiltrate something, so he turns into a human. When just walking around, he's just in his Martian form, and that's something that I think they should do if they ever make a sequel for Zack Snyder's Justice League, and then the DCEU's Martian Manhunter will absolutely be the better one. For now, though, the Arrowverse, while having some disadvantages and being poorly used, still at least has appearances, so I think the Arrowverse gets to this point as well. Now, there are two characters that this specific movie introduced who didn't appear in the original Justice League movie, one of which is Iris West, who I won't be going over in this video because she's not a hero, and also she barely had a role in this movie, so it doesn't really matter. The one character that does matter, I think, is actually a member of the Justice League in the comics, and that's the Atom, or Ryan Choi, the successor to Ray Palmer, who Ryan Choi is also the third Atom. Now, he has appeared now in both of these universes, which is actually ironic because Ray Palmer hasn't. Ray Palmer has only appeared in the Arrowverse, not in the DCEU, while Ryan has now appeared in both, having a very similar role in both as like a supporting side character in this world-ending event. For the DCU, it's during this Justice League event, while in the Arrowverse, it's during the Crisis. In the Arrowverse, he's played by Osric Chow, and he was a good actor. He was good in the role and all, but it was such a weird inclusion. Like, he came out of nowhere. He was made the paragon of humanity, one of the 8 characters who survived the entire destruction of the multiverse. And then he didn't really do anything. Like, in the end, he helped Ray Palmer make this shrinking device, but Ray could have easily done that by himself. And Ray also could have been the Paragon instead of him, and he didn't even suit up as the Atom. So, like, the expectation was there for him, while in the DCEU, it wasn't really, like, nobody expected him to suit up as the Atom in this movie, but potentially in the future. And honestly, just because of that, I think that the DCU version of Ryan Choi is probably better, because the Arrowverse one was poorly used, and he was shoehorned into an otherwise unrelated event. Now, from the remaining members of the Justice League, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and Cyborg, none of them have counterparts in the Arrowverse, but they do all have live-action DCTV counterparts elsewhere that are not really any competition for them, at least for Aquaman and Wonder Woman. Jason Momoa, who is really great as Aquaman, basically redefining the character, making him so much more popular, and affecting the comic book version as well, as Jason Momoa's tattoos were implemented into the Aquaman character in the comics. His counterpart is from Smallville, played by Alan Ritchson, who, Smallville, a DC TV show from the early 2000s, didn't really get any of the superheroes right. And that makes sense because they had no budget from a time where even in the movies didn't get most of the heroes right, so there was never really a competition there. Wonder Woman is even less of a competition, as her counterpart is in a Wonder Woman pilot episode that never came to fruition for very good reason. And again, Gal Gadot also, much like Jason Momoa, really rejuvenated the character of Wonder Woman for the worldwide audience. Out of the 3, though, Cyborg is the only one who actually does have competition in the DCTV universe, and in fact, until Zack Snyder's Justice League, I thought that the DCTV version was superior, and now it's a bit more of a question. The reason that it's so much more of a question now is because Cyborg probably had the most cut from the original cut of the movie to the Justice League movie from 2017. He wasn't really much of a character there. He got no backstory, no character development. He wasn't really all that important to the final battle either. And all of that is so much better in Zack Snyder's Justice League. He has the backstory, which is very compelling. He has the development, which is very, very well done. and Ray Fisher's actual performance was like completely cut from the original movie, which is why I thought that the Doom Patrol Cyborg was better. But now again, it's more of a question. Now it's like, I don't really know which one's better, as they're both very, very good versions of Cyborg for very, very different reasons. Javon Wade, I think that he's also a great actor, but it's the development of the character in Doom Patrol, which is a show that really, really portrays tragedy and like being an outcast so well. However, his design, while his torso area looks pretty damn cool, we never really see it. He's always wearing this sweater, and I think his faceplate kind of looks stupid. And I don't think we've ever seen the legs area of the Cyborg design, which automatically basically means that the DCU version does look better. So it's a question of like, the DCU version looks better. The Doom Patrol version is, I think that obviously has more development. But then again, they do both look cool, and Ray Fisher also has some great development, so I don't really know which one is better. It's a question of like, which one do I want to see more of going forward, and I think I want to see the DCEU version more, as again, much like The Flash, I do think that he deserves his own movie now, which I never thought before Zack Snyder's Justice League, so I think I'll give the point to the DCEU. But anyway, that's it basically for all of the Zack Snyder's Justice League heroes compared to their DCTV counterparts. I still think that overall the television series have better representation for DC heroes, but going forward, after the Zack Snyder's Justice League movie came out, I think the DCU has just so much potential going forward. The universe is very fleshed out now. All the characters are much more developed and much better written just from this movie, that going forward, I'm excited. I'm just so much more excited for any of it. Like, if there's a Justice League sequel, if there's all these solo movies for all these characters, obviously, or we already got Aquaman, and we got another Wonder Woman movie. But like Ben Affleck's Batman, Henry Cavill's Superman, Ezra Miller's The Flash, which is happening, and obviously Cyborg, are all solo movies that I would like to see. And even like Martian Manhunter, all of it's just so much more exciting than like a couple days ago before the movie came out. In terms of the movie itself, I also think that it's just like, other than everything I already mentioned, it's also even better like with the villains. Steppenwolf was not good in Justice League. His design was really bad, his motivation was generic and boring. This time around, it's like night and day. His design is great, he looks very, very menacing, much cooler, and the CGI is very, very high quality. But I think the main difference is the motivation, this Zuko-like motivation where he's banished from this clearly evil kingdom of sorts, where he just wants to regain his honor and get back there. It's like you feel kind of bad for Steppenwolf at the end of this because of his motivation being very, very, not relatable, but very, like, understandable, and, like, you feel like there's potential there for a redemption arc, maybe because of Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. But anyway, Steppenwolf was very, very, very good. He was a very three-dimensional, well-done villain, which is such a difference from the original Justice League. Aside from that, again, everything is really, really exciting. Everything is really, really well done. It's not a perfect movie by any means. It's, again, really long, and there are some design choices, like a lot of slow-motion scenes that didn't need to be there. Some music choices, like, I really didn't like Wonder Woman's theme here. Like, obviously, her regular theme is like, da-da-da-da-da, that's great. But then there's, like, the Amazonians theme, which also, I think, plays during the scene where Steppenwolf goes to Themyscira, but also, like, every single time Diana does something cool. And I really didn't like that music. And especially after 4 hours of hearing it, it just really got on my nerves. Other than that, and some other things, like I already mentioned Ezra Miller, and like, he was good, but he's not Barry Allen. He doesn't feel like Barry Allen, and the movie is too long. Other than those things, I do think that this movie is actually really good. Maybe my favorite DCEU movie, and that, I mean, DCEU doesn't have like amazing movies, but they do have some good ones. So that is saying something. But I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10, and that's basically it for this review, but also mostly comparison between the Justice League characters, or the members of the Justice League from Zack Snyder's Justice League, and their DCTV counterparts. But also, I wanted like an excuse to talk about this movie, where, I mean, in a video that probably does get views, because reviews don't really get views that much, and I only can make like one video ever so often. So I think I got the best of both worlds. We'll see how many views this video gets. But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below about this movie and all the comparisons I made. Which characters do you think are better between each universe? And if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching.